Hello, Stephanie, and welcome once again. I guess we'll get right into it. So, this year you ran three ARCA Menards series races, and you also made one start for the ARCA Menards Series East. So, how would you describe the 2023 season for you and for fast track racing?
This year for me was pretty simple. It wasn't a big season, unfortunately, but it was, I want to say, a really good season for me. I did pick up a lot more momentum this year, not funny wise, but being on the track wise to the tracks I have been to before, besides Toledo. But this year was fairly decent. I hope next year's a little better, but going into this year, I didn't really have high expectations to make it back on the track, but we kind of sort of made it happen, and so I'm happy. Anytime I'm behind the wheel, I'm happy.
That's great to hear. And now, if we take a look at the Toledo Speedway Shore Lunch 200, I'll give just a quick recap on it. So, there were 18 cars that only saw four cautions with three lead changes and five cars on the lead lap. You came home in 10th place at Toledo. So, how did you and your team approach that race weekend, and just how challenging is Toledo?
So Toledo wasn't really supposed to happen for me. It wasn't on my list of tracks, but we kind of came into this with Bristol. The funding was very last minute, so we didn't get to make Bristol. So we figured Toledo might be the next, the last track that we can actually maybe make. So coming into Toledo weekend, it was it was a little different because I've never been to Toledo. So my team was they expected the normal, everything's going to be great because I'm fairly decent at short tracks, but it was just making sure everything coming into this weekend was going to go as planned. Not normally when you're racing, everything doesn't go as planned, but coming to Toledo, it was like coming to another short track for me, and um, it's not so much challenging Toledo. It's actually one of the easiest short tracks I've been to, thank God, because I was coming into that and I was a little worried, a little skeptical, being that I'd never been on it. But I did practice on the sim coming into this, so I knew I was prepared for.
Definitely. And you saw a top 10 finish to finish out the 2023 season, which is a great way to transition into the next year's season. So, what do you think 2024 is going to look like for you?
I have a couple options that have kind of presented themselves to me. So if it's not doing ARCA stuff, it's doing more short track stuff. I have opportunities to do the Smart Tour down here in North Carolina. I was offered to do Cars Tour stuff. So I have a lot of options. I'm weighing them out right now, but um, I'm not 100% locked into anything for 2024. So I'm kind of taking it step at a time to see which is the best route for me to do.
Now, Stephanie, across the ARCA series, we've seen Amber Balkan, Tony Bradinger, and Mandy Chick and you all score top 10 finishes this year. So, how big is it to not only have women racing across the ARCA series, but to have them finishing in the top 10 and putting up competitive performances week after week?
I feel like it's huge only because when people think about women driving, not all of us are in the best equipment. And it's just we try to make a name for ourselves and show that women do belong in this sport. So getting these finishes mean a lot to us, but not just to us, but like younger females coming up the ranks, just knowing that they have an opportunity to get to where we are today, us ARCA girls, and hopefully to move up the ranks. And it's just, I feel like it's big. I feel like it leaves a mark on a lot of businesses and just foundations, and just kind of shows that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and women are making their way up through the sport.
Now, Stephanie, ARCA has a diverse schedule that many consider underrated with the super speedways of Daytona and Talladega, and with short tracks like Toledo and even dirt events. So, does this present a challenge for you when you're considering which races to attend?
Uh, I feel like if you're full time, I don't think so. Think too much of it, only because you have that funding for the whole entire season. Now, with someone that's part time, it kind of makes a big difference because some of these tracks are not live on FS1. So a lot of sponsors want to be on live TV. They want to have this car shown nationally, and there's some races that are on Flow and FS2, and not a lot of people have them. So it makes a little damper on just kind of the sponsors spending their money when they know that they can have TV time. So it all depends, but Yeah, like I said, I feel like if you're full time, it's not much. I feel like it's a good positive note versus if you're part time where you have to kind of help these sponsors spend their money wisely.
Now, Stephanie, I've got one last question for you that I really want to ask. As a successful woman in motorsports, what is some advice that you would give to younger girls who are looking to follow in your footsteps?
Oh, I love this question. I get this all the time. So for me, I grew up not having the last name. I grew up not, grown into a really wealthy family, and I know it's hard and I know it's tough, and I went through all of that. And I see a lot of women, a lot of young girls that just they have the same background as I do, and it's tough. It is very, very tough. Now, for me, I would have to say, get your connections as much as you can. Talk to so many people, even if you're an introvert like me. I am such an introvert, but it in the long run, it helps you so, so much. Like for me, I wouldn't be here if I didn't get my connections. So if you could get your connections, go to a short track, hook up with someone and try to get, pick their brain a little bit and see what you could do to get behind the wheel. Or if you're already behind the wheel, how could you extend it and take that next step forward? So just never give up. Just never give up because some things happen when you don't expect it.
That's great advice, Stephanie. And that's all for today. Thank you so much for your time and for your great responses as well.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It was nice talking to everyone.